the books that I read for the last 40 years. And today I have my special guest. She's a leadership coach, an author too, and of course, speaker, no other than Miss Catherine Crestani.
Thanks for having me back, Daniel. I'm very excited to be here again.
Welcome to Book 101 for the second time around, Miss Catherine. And can you please introduce more about yourself?
Yeah, so I'm a leadership coach, like you said, intuitive healer, an author, speaker, and a podcaster. I have my own podcast as well. And I recently, it's very hot off the press, just released my new book, Pillars for Life, a guide for spiritual ethics and practice. And it is very exciting how it came about. So it came through channeling, so getting it intuitively, and it just kept evolving and turning into something that's really magical for anyone who has a spiritual business or is starting on their spiritual practice.
Miss Catherine Crestani, thank you so much for sharing your knowledge and wisdom to the world. What void in contemporary spiritual literature does Pillars of Life aim to fill?
It's that conversation that no one really has. So everyone talks about their bad experiences, but no one actually talks about why they're bad experiences. So, ones that keep coming up very often are, unfortunately, tarot readers often come up. So it'd be like they go for a reading and then it's bad advice per se, or things will come out of it that lead to bigger consequences. So which then can have a detriment on the person. And so no one talks about it. There's also been discussions about, I know personally, a lot of people I know who have gone to mediums and then been given advice which hasn't been true or not been accurate and those sort of things. So there's like this level of in the spiritual community that kind of taints the rest of us as well. Or people might go work with a body worker or energy worker and feel, for me, this happened actually to me where I felt like my energy had been taken. So I actually felt worse at the end of the session than I did during the session. So the aim of Pillars for Life is to kind of give everyone, and the reason it's for life as well is because it's a guideline for how you can actually live in your highest integrity and your highest timeline for the highest and greatest good. So whether it is how you live or whether it's how you're working with those that come into your practice, or if you're looking for someone to work with, it gives you guidance and examples of things that might be red flags, or even how to keep yourself in check. Because especially when you're working with energy or you're working with anything in this realm, a lot of people who come to you will be vulnerable. And it's about not taking advantage of that vulnerability, but also not making them dependent on you. Because there's been a lot of people like spiritual gurus and things who make it so that you never actually learn to graduate from them and rather you become dependent on them. So this is all this discussions that happen within this book. But like everything, the biggest thing is you take what you want to and you leave what you don't. But it's just there to make you feel more comfortable too and go, huh, all right, how can I approach this differently? And how can I be more accountable for myself and hold myself in a higher level of integrity? So when I am working with people, I am working for that highest and greatest good.
Very well said, Miss Catherine. Beautifully, beautifully articulated. How do you define spiritual ethics in a world where spirituality is often divorced from moral action?
Yeah, that's a good question. Well, I guess it's, when you're working with energy and when you're working for yourself as a soul, when you want to evolve, you want to move towards, a higher level of involvement. We always want to keep trying to get better. When we're not aiming to be better or aiming to be the change we want to see, we're kind of stagnant. And as human beings and as souls, we want to keep evolving. So where the pillars for life comes in with that regard is it's it's got 7 key pillars, which you can see on the cover there that there's three from them. But these pillars all work together. You can't have one without the other. So the pillars themselves are a divine will, which talks about having freedom of choice, which is so important because we always have the ability to choose. And it's something we have to remember for anyone we work with or who we choose to work with. Then there's presence and authenticity, which is unless you're fully present and unless you're being your authentic self, then you're not going to show up how you want to in the world, right? Then there's my favorite pillar is actually willingness to change. So this is when you get given new information, you use your own discernment. So your discernment is your ability to feel if it's right for you or not. And you either learn to incorporate it or you don't. It's that whole thing like you don't do better until you know better, but then when you know better, you need to do better, right? So that comes into this pillar, and also being willing to change in terms of if you're looking for someone to work with, sometimes we outgrow them as well, and being willing to change and try something new when they no longer serve you on your journey. You know, it's like when we outgrow friends or we outgrow people in our life. Then there's also spiritual responsibility. So look after your own crap in your own backyard. Make sure that that's being taken care of. And then we've got equality, which is everyone's treated equal, everyone's seen as equal value. There's no someone's higher than you. It doesn't matter if they're coming to you for assistance, it's or empowerment, you still see them as whole. You're just there to provide them guidance so they can go to their next step, which is really important to remember, especially in this world where there's so much talk about being equal and all that sort of thing. But it's actually looking at it from a deeper spiritual soul kind of equality. And then the last pillar is accountability. So actually taking responsibility and accountability for your actions and your words and how you show up in the world, and taking responsibility for that too. If you forget something or you forget an appointment, actually being accountable for that and not try and blame everything else. So that can be a really important thing. And then this framework is all held together with a groundwork and a foundation. And then it has a keystone. And the keystone, which is the magical part, is just remember that we're human. Because so often with everything happening in society, with AI, with, or like talking about enlightenment and things like that, you can get pulled from all these different things. But we're humans having a human experience. Life is not meant to be perfect all the time. You'll have your ups, you'll have your downs, and you just have to learn to honor that and give gratitude that you're actually having the human experience in the first place.
Yes, count your blessing, people, and stop complaining. Why pillars? What makes these architectural metaphor essential to your framework?
It was just gifted to me. But now I see it. It's because we need, like, when you're building a house or when you're building a structure, you need those key pillars or those key beams to hold up everything else. So, and if you take one of the key beams out, or the structural beams out, then everything else falls down. So this is where this framework kind of comes into play, because each of those things is like an aspect of it. But we need all of them in order to keep our house strong, in order to keep us strong. So that's kind of where the pillars came from. And also I feel like they just like the look of them too. So even and even when I had this in mind, I actually was looking for an illustrator because I couldn't get the columns right myself. And when I reached out to this illustrator, I was telling him how each pillar actually has, it's very well linked. So it's linked to a chakra point, it's linked to an auric layer, so the energy body outside of us, it's linked to a crystal, it's linked to a guide or a guardian, and it's linked to an animal and a spirit guardian as well. And when I said that to him, the illustrator actually came back and integrated the animal and the plant into the design, and it made it look like sacred geometry, which is kind of magical and beyond what I even asked for. And I just thought, well, this is the universe clearly making it sure that these pillars stand out and that they, have the attention of for what they are. And a reminder too that we're always guided. Like I know when I look at pillars and look at them structurally, from all the old architect and that sort of thing, that you're reminded of how um, in the enormity of things and how everything can be so precariously balanced to hold up such an amazing structure. So that's where the pillars come in on the underlying thing, and how they, I feel, I'm getting a yes, but how they feel that that interplays with our life as a human as well.
Miss Catherine, which pillar challenges modern readers the most and why?
Oh, I feel it's like a toss up between authenticity and willingness to change, because so often we get stuck in our own ego and think that we know better, we know what we're doing, but the universe is like, no, there's more for you to learn, right? Like, here's some more. And when you get to know yourself really well, and this is about authenticity, because this word was thrown around the internet so much in the last few years, like show up as your authentic self. But what does that actually mean? It actually means you just show up however you are that day, because sometimes we're at 100%, sometimes we're at 10%, but you choose to show up 100% no matter what percentage you are, right? So that can be challenging in itself, and learning to be really honest and take all the masks off. So this is where the authenticity comes from, but also the willingness to change, because if you're not willing to learn more about yourself and let the layers fall away, and let all the I guess the titles or whatever you've collected fall away, so that you can evolve into your next level of yourself, then you're not going to get very far on your spiritual journey. You're going to be quite stuck and feel out of alignment. So, for modern people reading this, being really open to change, and then also instituting that change in your life is such a powerful thing.
Powerful indeed. And Miss Catherine, share a daily practice that turns abstract ethics like justice or forgiveness into tangible action.
Yeah, so each chapter has a practice associated to it, which is really cool. That's how it kind of evolved. But the one that's sticking out in the top of my head is a practice called Ho'oponopono, which is a Hawaiian traditional one. Yeah, which
Kapono.
yeah, which I never know how to say it. I always do too many no's or too many po's. But it's so beautiful because it's all about forgiveness, love, gratitude, and saying sorry. And it's this simple practice. Anyone can look it up. There's beautiful songs about it as well. But it's like, I'm sorry, please forgive me, I love you, and thank you. And the art of that is, when you can learn to forgive somebody, you actually take your power back. So we've been so conditioned to believe that, you forgive and forget, but it's not that at all. Forgiveness is actually you reclaiming your power from the situation. And if you can learn to forgive the unforgivable, you actually, and see the blessings in that and see the gratitude in that, you will have massive changes in your life, whether it's a trauma, whatever it might be. And so, being able to bring that practice into your life. So for me, when I first was introduced to it, I still remember in my mind's eye a line of people I wanted to give stuff back to, and for me, I imagine packing everything that happened to me that I saw as bad, if you will, that I want to give back to them, and I give it to them in a box, like a little gift box, and I give it back to them, and I'm like, thank you, I love you, I forgive you, I'm sorry, but this is not mine, and you can have it back. And it's very freeing. And I still remember doing it for a few people in my life who I found it really hard to forgive. And the more you do it, because you keep finding more layers, the more easier it is to do. So then that forgiveness can come in from such a powerful place and cause a big shift in your life, as well as the relationships you've had or had with them.
Very well said, Miss Catherine. Very well said. As a leadership coach, an author, and a speaker, as well as podcast host, what are your short term and long term goals?
Huh. Well, it's funny, my short-term goal at the moment is actually rebalancing myself in the mum role, and focusing on my son and being a mum and a nurturer and a nourisher, but also balancing in that with everything that I'm doing. So still working with people one-on-one, and coaching groups, and um, my short term goal is to show people how they can actually integrate being a mum into still having some sort of career as well, however big or small you want that to be. But if you want to prioritize that mum role first while your child's still little, then that is perfectly okay. So, short term, it's doing that and also sharing this beautiful knowledge that I put together and gifted, that was gifted to me to put in this book, so that people can start to integrate this more into their life and into their spiritual practices and talking around the world. And my long term goal is to actually empower 1 million souls across the globe through speaking events and sharing wisdom that comes through.
Good luck to your goals, Miss Catherine, and looking forward for more success. What would be your piece of advice for those people out there want to be, of course, like you?
I guess it's wake up each day and just take one, what if it's a small step or a big step, but just take one step towards your goals, towards your dreams, towards your visions, because it's all those little steps that you take that compound and end up with big, like, ends up something big. So when I started writing, I was just writing for 15 minutes a day and it evolved into a book. And then I have a novel that I'm editing as well. So, the more that you commit yourself to these small daily practices and honoring yourself through that, that allows you to be the change that you want to see in the world.
Yes, thank you so much for your advice. Empowering indeed. Miss Catherine, how can these pillars address digital age dilemmas like AI ethics or social media toxicity?
Yeah, I feel that this is a big thing because AI and social media, people are using it like their light. They're using it like their absolute guidebook. I know people who search everything on ChatGPT rather than actually coming back to your heart and checking in with what is actually aligned for you. So often, and especially on social media, we got bombarded with all this advice, but it doesn't mean it's right for you. It's just that person's opinion of what could be right for you. And this is where the pillars come into play, because it's checking in with yourself and checking in with your intuition and your inner wisdom and saying, hey, is this aligned with me, and using your discernment. And if it is, yes, then by all means change, incorporate into that into your life. If it's not, let it go and move on, because the more you take on other people's ideas and other people's opinions and other people's instruction, and it's not aligned with you, you will end up living their dreams and vision and forget about your own. And this is the same with AI. AI only knows you to a point. It doesn't understand your life story. It doesn't understand your emotions. It doesn't understand your physiology. It cannot replace that inner wisdom that you have, and it cannot replace the human experience that you're having. And when you come back to that and realize that you are unique and you are your own blessing, and you can incorporate these pillars into your life so that you can show up exactly how you are, then that is where your power will come from as well. And it's not about saying AI is bad, because I use AI. I was teaching a client this morning how to use AI to help her write an Instagram post because she's not very good at putting her words in a summarized format. So it comes back to really trusting in using your discernment with that, but also not relying on this technology to make all your decisions. In the end, it comes back to what is right for you, not what everyone else tells you to do.
Yes, totally, totally empowering, Miss Catherine. And which pillar demanded the deepest personal excavation, as you wrote?
Oh, God, I love your questions, Daniel. Um,
Thank you.
actually, I think the one that evolved the most was actually the first one, which was divine will, because it's very much connected to the law of one and a lot of universal laws and things like that. And it was such a potent reminder that the freedom to, or we always have the freedom of choice. We can always choose what path we go to, and it doesn't matter what you choose, you end up where you're meant to end up. And every time you make a choice, it actually changes your future. It can be a choice 5 minutes from now, it can be a choice a year from now, but in the end, we always have that ability to choose what we want. But also, our choices impact everyone around us too, because it's that whole ripple effect. And when you remember that we're all connected and that we're all one, that can be very mind blowing in itself. And it does make you a little bit more accountable for your actions when you realize how much you can impact those in your circle, no matter how big or small.
Miss Catherine, how does your book refrain burnout not as exhaustion but as spiritual misalignment?
I feel the biggest thing with burnout is you have ignored yourself and your authentic being for too long. It's you have ignored your body, you have ignored all the signs that's building up that you are in a place that you're not meant to be, and there's all these studies being done between a CEO and an entrepreneur. And the CEO is more likely to end up in burnout than the entrepreneur, because the entrepreneur, if they're living a soul aligned business and trusting their authenticity and showing up as themselves and being fully present in the moment of that, they don't end up with burnout because they have the energy to keep going because they're online with their vision and mission. So, how this book addresses burnout is that it is a reminder that if you're not in alignment with yourself, if you're not holding yourself to a high level of standards, you are going to end up in burnout because you're living someone else's dream or what everyone else is dictating you to be. So, you can pull yourself back and start to pay attention to your body more. And this is where spiritual responsibility comes in, but also knowing yourself as well as you know others, because the more you know yourself and the more that you can identify what's triggers, what are wounds, what might happen when you're in a stressful situation, the more you can quickly pull yourself back from that, because you become friends with yourself so much that even those shadow parts are integrated in. So in terms of burnout, it's remembering that burnout is because we're not in alignment with who we really are, and we're not aligned and listening to ourselves and listening to our body where it's saying to rest, and we keep pushing. Sometimes you need to rest, and that's okay too.
Definitely. People, if you have time to rest and relax, please do so. And Miss Catherine, before we wrap up our discussion for today, I'm inviting you to please do listen to my other podcast, people, my other podcast, because my abstract essay is already in fifth season, abstract poetry in second season, and my book 101 review in fifth season too, comedy 101 in second season, and my food 101 in fifth season as well, geography 101 in fourth season, and my baby podcast law 101 and Mental Health 101. Love Letters in third season and Movie 101 Review and Music 101 in its fourth season and Science 101 and Sex 101 in its first season. Please listen to them wherever you listen your podcasts. Miss Catherine, can you please complete this sentence? Living by these pillars won't make you a perfect, it will make you blank.
It won't make you perfect, but it will make you live each day that fully means something to you.
Very well said and beautifully, beautifully articulated. Miss Catherine, thank you so much for sharing your book to the world. Thank you so much for sharing your knowledge and wisdom to the world. So, can you please invite our listeners to support Pillars for Life?
Yeah, so at the moment it's available as paperback and as on Kindle on the Amazon store worldwide, so you can get it anywhere in the world. It's also on Kindle Unlimited, so if you have Kindle Unlimited, you can get that as part of your package. And the plan is to have it in audiobook and on other e-reader platforms sometime soon.
Yes, sometime soon. Looking forward for that, Miss Catherine, and wishing you all the success in life. So, people, let's support Miss Catherine Crestani because if you support her, more and more and more pillars of life to come. So, Miss Catherine, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, Daniel. Pleasure as always.
More to come, people. See you soon.